All right, welcome to Ultimate Park Guide with something a little different. We're going to talk about microphones because over the course of this show, we have gone through a number of microphones, starting with some microphones we picked up on Amazon and elsewhere that were wired microphones that plugged into the iPhone. That we then moved on to some wireless microphones that I won't mention, which we've moved away from. And now I'm using the Wireless Pro X from Rode that I'm holding in my hand, which is really an interview microphone, which I happen to like a lot. And I've used this in a number of places. And I have a guest with me, Andy Maher, who goes back to the days of stage shows and recording music. And when people pulled around big fat wires and things that, well, I personally do not like, even though I will admit they probably sound a whole lot better. So I'm going to jump over to Andy and talk to him a little bit about why those things are probably still better, even though people like me refuse to use them. Let's talk about microphones and why people like me, who are standing here holding a microphone that probably has a capsule on it that goes way back, using technology that's probably not quite as good as the stuff that you used way back when.
No, well, first of all, hi.
Hi.
Nice to talk to you.
It's good to have you, Andy,
Um,
and thank you for taking the time to join us. Let's talk about microphones because there's a lot of people out there that go out and they go to the store and they look and they think the best mic's the one that's going to cost them the most and is going to get the best sound. And that's
okay.
probably not true.
The best mic, if you were to buy one microphone in your life, get the Shure SM57 or its sister, the SM58, which is the same thing but with a pop filter and a screen on the top of it.
And let's talk about that. That's probably 99 bucks, 89 bucks on sale.
89 bucks at Sweetwater, 3-day free delivery.
And we're not
Okay.
endorsing
That's not
Sweetwater.
a plug for Sweetwater.
They
It's
don't
just
sponsor us, so we're not endorsing them.
just
Even though
the
we
go-to
take a
place for
sponsorship if they want.
SM57s. Go-to place for SM57s. You can find them cheaper on eBay, but there's no guaranteeing it's not a knockoff. Okay.
Yeah, and we're going to get to that later about Chinese
Yes.
knockoffs, and be careful.
So the SM57, my all-time favorite microphone. It's not exactly handy because they're all wired, right? And you're sticking an XLR connector and you're running a cable. It's not, you're not taking it out in the field with you.
Well,
But, having said that, I've used the SM57 inside kick drums. I've, shoved it into a speaker on a Marshall stack on a stage. I've used it on drums. I've used it on keyboards, Leslie speakers rotating around screaming. Use the SM58 for vocals.
well,
Many people still do.
let's get to that. The SM57, the SM58 Sennheiser mics. Any one of those
Sure,
can
sure,
be
sure,
made.
sure. Yeah.
Those are Shures, but any one of those mics can be made wireless with an adapter.
You can put a cable on it. You see it all the time on stage now. They just stick it in the back and it just extends another 3 or 4 inches and it's a transmitter.
Right.
Pops right into the XLR connector. So you're just dealing with a microphone. Now, those microphones are full metal jacket. Those things are made of metal. Okay.
Right.
You could throw them around. You can run them over with a car. In fact, I've done it. I've thrown them around and run them over with cars. The It's
And
all
the
about the unit.
SM57, what year was that designed?
Well, so
1950?
that's the Unidyne 3 capsule is what's in both of those. The Unidyne 3 capsule came out in 1960. No, but it works. It's the best. It's always been the best for one microphone. You want one microphone. Is it the best microphone to stuff into a bass drum in a recording studio? No. Best for recording strings? No. Best for recording vocals in a studio? No. You're going to go out in the road, okay, and fill a road case up with microphones, throw 32 of them on a stage, mix them live, throw them back in the case, and do it again tomorrow. That's the microphone to bring.
I'm getting tired of holding a microphone, so excuse me for a minute.
Yeah, it'll do everything. Okay. So that notwithstanding, what is it that you don't like about the SM57? And you don't even have to answer. I know what it is. It's a hypercardioid. It's directional.
So I'm back and I'm holding this little microphone
Hmm.
that is very, very convenient that I'm going to actually clip onto my shirt in a second. And it's tiny.
Uh-huh.
And it's a very
Tiny.
different microphone, which people use all the time for podcasting and for recording and do exactly what I'm going to do, which is it's going to go right over here.
Well, right now I'm using two microphones.
Well,
One is here
yeah,
and
but
one is here. So I out tiny you.
I'm going to forget about this. Usually I have a magnet on it to hold it in place and it snaps onto the front of my shirt. I just forget it's there because I don't like having anything in my hands and I walk around.
I wouldn't throw one of these inside a bass drum and expect it to last very long, or stick it in front of a Marshall amplifier cranked up to 11. That's not going to work either.
But does
But
this sound as good as this sounds?
no, it doesn't, simply because of the distance, the space. Okay. The
Okay.
other one you had up to your mouth, this one you have around the corner and far away, over the hills and far away. Right. It had nothing to do with the microphone. It's the next problem is microphone placement. I was just about to go into the thing that you would not like about the Shure SM57, and that's that it's a cardioid microphone, right? If the microphone is here, the pickup pattern goes like that. Picks up very little behind, some on the sides, and all on the front. On a
And what
stage, that's brilliant because you want the vocal and nothing else, right?
and that by the way, that's also the Shure SM7 and a lot of
Yeah,
the Shure
anything.
mics, which I also use, and one of the issues I have with it is I tend to wander when I'm in my office.
Right.
And when
That's
I'm
not
doing recording, and a lot of the podcasters have to be aware of this, is if you're gonna use those microphones, you have to be right up in front of them, and you have to keep yourself in front of them, because if you
exactly.
move to the sides, or if you move away, or if you're doing a presentation with a product and you start drifting off of the mic, once
Nope.
you're off of that mic, it's gonna lose your voice.
It is
And so
directional by design, and
right.
it's really
So
good at it.
if you look at something that says it's cardioid or one of
Or
the other patterns
hypercardioid, even
or
worse.
hypercardioid, it's going to be very, very directional. So if you think you're going to move off of it, that's not the mic for you. So when we talk about types of mics, microphones, you have to be sensitive to what you're buying. So if you're a podcaster and you want to just sit in front of that mic and you want to talk into it, cardioid or hypercardioid, that's your mic, and it's going to have that great sound and that deep sound, and it's going to be wonderful. And that's that Shure SM7 and that type of mic and those podcaster mics. But if you're going to be somebody who's talking about products and you're going to move around, then the dynamic mic that's omnidirectional may be a much better choice for you because number one, you're not going to get the sound that's going to get deeper and lose the
Yeah.
bass as you move away. And you're
Right.
going to be able to move around the studio. So
Right.
you're gonna
Right. Right.
pick
Right.
that up. So those directional mics become very important.
Or you're going to be able to walk up to the elephant and back up from the elephant, and you could
Yes,
turn while you're running away from the panther. A cardioid microphone is your best friend, but it's in your face.
right. It's wonderful, but that's going to be very directional. A lot of these mics, including the mic I'm holding right here, is going to be omnidirectional. It's a dynamic mic. It's meant for interviewing so that people on both sides are going to be able to be heard.
The dynamic, they're all dynamic. SM57 is a dynamic mic also.
Okay.
That refers to the physical mechanism. It's basically a magnet working through a coil. That's what makes it a dynamic mic.
So these omnidirectional mics, though, you're going to be able to
Yeah.
get people on both sides so that if you're doing an interview and you want to just move the mic back and forth,
You worry about the distance, but you don't have to worry about direction.
you got to really be thinking about that as you pick your microphone and what you're going to do. And like I said, if you're somebody who wanders around your studio, think
Mhm.
about the type of microphone if you go off center, which I tend to do.
It's a tool. You pick the right tool for the job, right?
Now let's get to some of these mics, and I have some of them. Take the USB and the XLR cable. I admit it. I have the Shure mics that do both, and I always
Uh-huh.
use the USB because let's face it, I don't want to deal with a preamp. I don't want to
Mhm.
deal with converting the XLR over to USB,
Yeah, I'm
even if
with you.
it's going to give me better sound, and having that big fat XLR cable going into the preamp and having to adjust it and then watch for clipping. I mean,
Hmm.
coming out of that USB cable and letting the internal circuitry of the microphone take over, and they have that little switch where I can boost the bass and I can let it do everything internally. I mean,
Sure,
that it's awfully nice. Why the
sure.
hell do I wanna use the XLR output and let it go direct?
You don't. You
Thank
don't.
you.
Doesn't mean everybody doesn't. Like I'm not doing anything wireless if I can do it with a wire. Okay.
Okay, but they're both
But
wires. A USB cable's a wire, and an XLR
no, it's
cable's a
not.
wire.
No, it's not. An XLR cable is a cable. Okay. A USB is a serial bus. Digital signals, ones and zeros. Now, having said that, come on, let's practically speaking. It doesn't make any difference to you
Well,
because you're
it's
not recording a symphony
digital's
orchestra.
better. Digital's
Digital,
cleaner.
of
Don't we all know that? We all got CDs because we didn't want that noise from the analog, right?
course, except it just totally destroys harmonics. It just destroys harmonics. Okay. You have those nice curves. Okay. And then this curve is that curve, and they meet and they match and they come together and they form new curves. And everything is like the waves in the ocean when you're analog. When you're digital, everything is ones and zeros at different levels and they don't flow. So does it matter to you? No. Would it matter to you if you had a symphony orchestra with a string section where everybody, although they're playing the same note, all the violins are playing the same note, nobody's two fingers are hitting that board the same way, right? There's a constant tension, there's a constant beating harmonics. Okay, that's what gives it the richness. You record a violin, okay,
Okay,
copy that track 8 times, merge it together, and it sounds like one.
okay, so if you have a sound man sitting there who's gonna watch it and keep it from clipping and make sure it's all right, that's great.
Only if
But
you have
most of us don't.
complex multi-source things. If you get one guy with one microphone talking, who cares?
So, okay, so
Who cares?
let's talk about the latest and greatest. 32-bit floating recording that's
Ooh.
out there that's stored. I love
Hmm.
these. The Rode
Hmm.
Wireless,
Hmm.
recorders, and I use the Rode Wireless Pros. These things record internally, so if I ever lose connectivity, everything's stored internally on the mics. I've got my receiver plugged into the computer. I can plug that into my Z8. I can plug that into the phone. I can record directly to it. Each of the mics is recording. I mean, these things are incredible. Plus, they never clip.
They won't let the signal peak. They'll pull it down. Same circuitry, by the way, in here. You could put these on, put them in transparent mode, go and stand in front of a rock concert from 6 feet away. It'll let all the sound through clearly, but it'll pull it down in volume so it won't hurt you. Okay. It's amazing what people are doing with microprocessors. Okay? And that's the benefit that you're getting with that thing. It won't clip. It can't clip. That's why they call it floating. It'll pull it down. And
So,
every
looking at this
God,
technology compared to what was there even 3 years ago, 4 years
it's
ago,
amazing. It's amazing.
and it
Okay.
allows those of us who are outside, especially when we're outside using a gimbal or recording outside and you get heavy winds,
Yeah.
to have your voice come through clearly and really get recordings that you couldn't get several years ago. So with this technology, I mean, you could use a 32 something with the 32-bit floating technology in it, tied in with an XLR cable and a microphone, but
Mhm.
that would be awfully bulky.
When you have your XLR plugged into something, you plug it into a copy of Pro Tools running on your Mac, and you can do anything you want with it. The genius of what you have there is not what it can do. We've been doing that for years. The genius of that is you don't need to lug the $3,000 Mac and all sorts of digital to analog
Right.
converters because it's all built into that teeny tiny little box, right?
And you're not losing anything in the field that you then have to try to recapture outside, which it's already lost, and it's always harder to get something that you didn't get in the first place.
Right, right. If you want to be true fanatic about it, it's like you are with your pictures. You want to record raw and fix it later, but that's not practical for what you're doing. You don't want to take every piece of audio that your poor editing team has to deal with and have them run it to compressors and limiters and expanders and bring down the clip. And yeah, could they do it? Sure. Should they do it? Heck no. You got to write the little box, clip it on your shirt, and forget about it.
We have these now. Looking at what this is, and it's in here too, and I'm sure that somebody's gonna take that SM57 and install it in a microphone that has that at some point. Where are we going? I mean, this is always the question that we like to ask the futurist. Where do we go next?
I don't know. I think it's pragmatics. Where do we need to go next? Think about it. It's like we have thousands of microphone options already in terms of what's the microphone, how do you connect it, what are you connecting it to, what are you going to do with that, and on and on and on and on. It's a whole production line. We've been making perfectly, beautifully clear digital recordings for decades already. We're beyond that. We've got post-processing that's unbelievable. You could take a 16-track multi-recording now, put the master up on a computer, and pull each track out separately auto tune whatever you want to tune, put it all back together. Okay. So Do you need to take that technology and stick it into a microphone? No, not really. So where can microphones go? They can get more reliable in terms of batteries. Okay. Right now, the thing you have in your hand is a disposal phone.
Well, that's
When
what
the
my
battery
big
life on
complaint
that
is.
drops to about 50% and it's only reliable on a 30-minute charge, you throw it in the ocean and buy a new one, right?
That's my big complaint with this, is it does not have replaceable batteries, and at this size, there is no reason that it shouldn't.
Right. Well, how does it get past that? Battery technology is evolving. Okay. 3 years from now, they may be able to give you one of those that's got a 20-year battery in it. Who knows where that's going?
Or 2 replaceable
Audio,
lithiums that which they should have been able to do today.
right. Audio technology. Well, where are you going to go with it? You only have to stay within the ability of human ears, and we're already way past that. You're talking location and convenience. Okay, I think is the next frontier. Can you take that microphone to Antarctica? Will it work at 20 degrees below zero? What do you have to pay for something that will? You and I both know the problem with acoustics underwater. Okay, we're both divers. My son is an acoustic engineer. Where can they go with that in terms of noise cancellation? But again, that's post processing. The microphones themselves, you've got condenser microphones, you've got dynamic microphones, you've got ribbon microphones, you've got expensive microphones, cheap microphones, built-in tube preamplifiers. Microphones, two of them in here. Can they get any smaller? Probably. Why? I don't know.
Well, let's go to the next question. Wired versus wireless. Are we gonna get to a point where you don't see wired microphones being used anywhere?
Anywhere? No, no. It's certain places that, you know, again, underwater, outer space, things like that. You see a lot of it now. You go to a rock and roll show, it's like guitars, with the exception of Steve Lukather, who's out of his mind. Every guitarist I've seen in the last 10 years is using a wireless mic. They take their guitar off, they hand it to the guy, they put a new one on. It's also got a wireless mic. The singer's got a wireless. Everybody's wireless. Except Steve Lukather, who's got actually has a roadie who feeds his cable out to him and pulls it back in because he won't unplug. The backline stuff, the amplifiers, the drum kit, it's all wired. It's all wired because wireless poses its own threat. I did some amateur theater, and one of the joys of doing this amateur theater was that I had 16 wireless mics on stage. Each one has to operate on a discrete frequency, and every time you set up, you have to check for straight random RF floating through that new building, and then assign a frequency to each microphone. Really, I'd rather have wires. You can't have wires from a Broadway stage back to the sound booth. You have to go wireless, but that's a pain in the neck. Discrete frequencies, no collision. Everything's got to be clean. The local police department can't be stepping on, La Boheme. It's just not cool. So there's all that comes into play. Everything's got its ups and downs. Everything. Wireless, sure, sure, great. I'm wireless right now. You're wireless right now.
Right.
You sound good.
But looking as we go forward, I mean, these things are good out to almost 1,200 feet, which
Hmm.
is somewhat ridiculous because I don't have a camera that's good out to 1,200 feet, but
Right.
it's nice to
Uh-huh.
nice to know my microphone is. I always thought that it was nice if I put my camera on a tripod, I can yell at the guy who's stealing the camera as he's
Right.
running away with it. I wondered why they give it that much range, and I understand the real reason is so that it's very clear as I go that 60 or 70 feet away where I do have range,
It's also
particularly
it's also
if
power.
it's
Okay.
also for the gimbal tracking so that as I get
Yeah.
further away, it's really got that nice clarity. But the range on these things is already, getting to the point where on some of the higher powered ones, not necessarily the one I'm using, it's just ridiculously beyond what you
The,
would need.
the range
Um,
of what I'm using is infinite because it tethers itself through Wi-Fi to this, and this thing runs anywhere in the world. We could just keep talking, and I could start walking, and I could walk to San Francisco, and you'd never lose me. So it's
yeah,
infinite range,
but
right?
we're getting to that point where range is no longer an issue.
Range is only an issue if you limit yourself and then run up against the limit you gave yourself, right? Like if you're using standard Bluetooth, your range is 60 feet, 80 feet, 90 feet, then you're gone.
Which is
So
what we used to do,
range is definitely something that has to be taken into account. The corollary to range is power, right? The further you push the signal, the more power you need to push it,
right?
right? So like these The packs that they wear on the Broadway stage, these things have a 9-volt battery in it. It'll last for about 2 hours, then you throw it away and put another one for the next performance. They go through more batteries than you could imagine. Every performance, every radio gets a new battery. All the others go that way. You just go to Costco and buy them by the pallet.
But let's face it, the other thing is, as you get further out, you also do start to drop the highs and the lows, the bass, and
Yeah, that's when you start running against random RF interference. You can balance them all out on the stage, but then if you walk 40 feet over that way, you can run up against a ballast transformer and a fluorescent light, and it just takes you out. If you spec and set up for the job you're doing, it's 100%. But you got to
so
spec out the job and set up for it.
so that gets back to the question of those big, thick XLR cables that we used to see. I mean, they are still around,
They
and
are.
there are still people using them.
Yeah, there's still people using them wrong, and there's still people breaking them. Clearly remember wiring the connectors during the band's break because somebody stepped on something and pulled something out of somewhere. It's the law of the jungle.
So I guess they're not going away anytime soon because they're still selling a lot
No,
of them.
no. I remember that an engineer I used to know, he went ballistic because a member of the road crew took his cables and he wanted to make the floor in the studio nice and clean. So he took the cable and coiled it up on the floor, and then he plugged it into the microphone. Took the next one, he coiled it up on the floor, he plugged it into the microphone. This roadie was walking around building induction loops in all these cables, and the cables themselves were picking up RF noise. This guy lost his mind. He picked up the cable and just threw it up in the wind, and he said, "No, no induction coils." So everything's got its thing. You just have to sort of know.
And for those people who don't understand, you never want to create a loop with electricity running through it.
This, the MagSafe charger, it's a coil with electricity running in here. There's another coil in there. When you put this one on there, the electricity spins around and charges this battery. You don't want to spin your electricity.
Not good if you're trying to get clean sound.
No, because it's also an antenna.
I guess what we're seeing is in the future, things will probably get smaller and probably more powerful only because there seems to be an infinite desire for power out there. From there, we'll see where it goes because
Yeah, I mean, the microphones that you're talking about, the podcaster's microphone, they're getting smaller because these microphones are getting smaller. They're getting cheaper. This is the commodity item now. If you go looking to buy cheap microphones, you get really high quality microphones. They're making them by the billions for these devices, driving down the price point.
but they still don't have the
So
sound of these. I can talk in a normal voice, and this ends up sounding.
you just happen to have a really wonderful normal voice. It's,
I'm not so sure about that. Although this sounds better than that does, even though it's off
that's
right now.
it was a proximity thing. You had one directly in front and the one down here. It's got a better windscreen on it. That little piece of whatever it is over the top, the foam rubber. It's wonderful, wonderful. It really pop filter.
I've never tried using them both on together, although I am right now. I wonder how this works.
Well, it sounds fine because they're not out of phase with each other. If they were out of phase with each other, it sounded really bonkers.
So there we go. Now I have them both on to see how this works at the end of this whole thing.
Now you sound like an FM DJ.
Oh, I always wanted to do that. So I've got
Yeah.
both of my mics working.
Overnight shift in WFUV, the Fordham University voice.
Using all the toys I have to really
Nice.
get the sound going. See?
That's it. That's it. And then we can always post process it and give you a little bit of echo and just a little bit of slapback reverb and we can just lift the low mids up to give you a really nice rumbly sound.
Andy, I want to thank you for your time. For those of you who've enjoyed what you've heard today and who enjoy what we do here on Ultimate Part Guide, I want to ask you to subscribe and ring the bell and join us and come back and watch the other adventures we have on Ultimate Part Guide. Most of them out visiting sites. Go out and buy yourself a mic, have some fun, record some stuff, and see what you can do.
If anyone has any questions about the enormous amount of opinion and fact that I dumped out in the last few minutes, they can leave a comment below. I'll be reading them and I'll answer them.
Always feel free to leave comments. As you know, I usually respond, sometimes sarcastically, but usually respond one way or another. And with that, we'll end this video.